Alright boys, it's enough of that. Although I do like this Mac Richter. It's good little rant music. So what we're doing now is we're in the second day of the rally. Okay, so second day of the rally gets a little bit more dangerous in terms of buying the dollar yen or buying the dollar Swiss, jumping on a couple of these trades that were on here. But it definitely still possible, and I think following the trend is going to be key today. We're seeing some pretty relentless selling coming through on the Aussie dollar and the Kiwi dollar. Strange US dollar strength. And the euro is, for the first time in a long time, attempting to break to the downside in fashion which looks sustainable. Okay, so if we're getting some euro selling at the same time we're getting dollar yen buying, then really I think this is going to be an interesting week in trading. Dollar yen testing 105 while the euro is testing 110. Makes a lot of sense. Pound continue to be under pressure, maybe bounce a little risk rally, but not too much. Kiwi breaking 70 and Aussie breaking 75 seems to be, the path of least resistance here. Now this is even as stocks are remaining quite buoyant, so it's an interesting phenomenon. It's not usually you get US dollar strength and risk on. Now it's not crazy risk on, but it's holding risk on. So perhaps the market's just going to be looking at something else. What else is to look at? It's just rising US yields there. It gives a story that dollar yen can rally. ECB remaining dovish gives the story that the euro can fall. Well, there's nothing else going on, might as well play this. In terms of negativity that can come through later, always Deutsche Bank still in the background, and data-wise, not much. But I still like this as just following the trend, sort of easy trading. It gets much more difficult 105, 110. Perhaps they hold and make it a little bit more of a range trading scenario. But initially, as the market's falling here, I wouldn't try and get in the way of it too early. So buying Aussie before 75 test, it doesn't make sense to me. Buying Aussie at 75, still got to have a pretty tight stop on that. If it breaks 75, then perhaps we are going to go on a more substantial move lower, and it could look like the top's in place. I don't know, unlikely, right? This pair's been ranging for a while. Same as the euro. You're going to be pretty brave selling the euro underneath 110. No matter how bearish it looks, it's just been holding in such a tight range for so long that the burden of proof is on the breakout traders, not the range traders. The range traders have been controlling this for almost 3 years. So without a substantial story, I don't think there'll be enough momentum to crack it. But you never know. I mean, these things can develop in a way which is more aggressive than you expect. But as long as you remain with the buyers, you should be fine. It would be very surprising if the US dollar got sold aggressively for the rest of the week, and this was all fake. Yeah. I think the US Fed speakers have been coming out enough, suggesting that the September unemployment numbers were strong enough to justify a rate hike, and the markets, that seems to be the main story, yeah, rather than anything else. So the bond market's reacting to that, but they're not saying anything too aggressive, and it's too far away to rattle the stock market, so it's just general US dollar strength. Aussie's every rally's been sold for a while, so that just becomes a bit of a habit as well. So I would be selling the next Aussie rally as well if we get a chance. But I'm more interested in dollar yen. Dollar yen, I feel better, and I feel like this is the real deal. Had that pullback from 104, straight back up here. Just keep buying dips. We might be adding to our position here. Where did we get in at? Yesterday we got in at $20-ish. So adding a little bit more, which is not enough. That's not enough, governor. There we go. Mexican's sideways, so we're not going to trade any more of that. We've got enough of that. Dollar Swiss is performing. Dollar Swiss actually... Geez, you trade 0.1 once and every default setting in MT4 becomes 0.1. So the same way that Euro testing 110 is possible, Dollar Swiss testing parity is possible. That would everything lining up at the same time makes sense here. New trade ideas. Okay, someone just went long Euro. Long Euro. Are you watching the stream, mate? Why are you going long Euro here? You think this is a joke, and they're just going to bounce up again? I mean, yeah, perhaps. What's your take profit? That's the best trade idea you can come up with. To buy the Euro just because it's been bouncing off every dip. It's a dangerous time, man. Dangerous time. I understand the last buy in the dip. I don't understand this buy in the dip. This is like you're pressing your luck too far, yeah? Maybe we get a little bit of a bounce, 20, 30, but substantial, 112, that's a big rally there, mate. That's, yeah. I'm going to stay with the US dollar strength at the moment. Look, I'm not totally against this. It's, 70-30 max downside, probably 60-40 downside. There's no main story there, yeah? It's just, it feels real, not just a range trading sort of Euro move. But we'll see. We'll see how the US plays it today. I don't mind buying for a little bounce, but that's a big rally. You got your ABCs going there, mate. That's a big rally. Like it needs a catalyst for that. And on the calendar, I don't see a catalyst for that. News story wise, I mean, perhaps a massive rally in pound would drag the euro with it, but if anything, that would hurt the euro. Next trade is a sell. Okay, looking for the break of the triangle. Yeah, I'm more in line with that. I'm more in line with this trade idea. Test the 110. I definitely am more interested in buying below 110, just as the market's struggled so many times to sustain that euro weakness. Actually, more of it sustained US dollar strength than anything else. CAD yen selling. Ooh. Okay, it's one of the strongest pairs in the market, obviously, because oil's really strong and dollar yen's really strong. And CAD's interesting. Yeah, CAD's interesting. See you guys talking about CAD in there. I'll talk about that in the update a little bit later. There's a war going on in Canadian dollar on the dollar CAD. It's between the US dollar buyers, which are winning on nearly every battle around the market, and the Canadian buyers, which feel that the oil strength justifies a reversal, down to say 130. Now the CAD yen is sort of not in that fight, but still it's enjoying the struggle with dollar yen rallying. You're seeing some CAD yen gains. I suspect the dollar is stronger than the Canadian dollar at the moment, and that if the CAD was going to rally on the back of oil, it would have done so more substantially. Okay, so yeah, I do think that the US dollar is going to win, but I think that the dollar yen side will be strong enough that CAD yen will net end up back towards 80 rather than that reversal that Jay's looking for. But you never know. Canadian dollar will get more aggressively sold if we get above some key levels. So technically the Canadian dollar has been attempting to topside for a while. And although there was that false sort of break above that 132.60 level, not just a few weeks ago, but even last week there, you know, you had strong numbers as well, unemployment numbers. I don't think it's safe to be bashing the CAD. The trade there that Jay's on the short CAD yen, it's interesting. You could sell Kiwi yen, you can sell Aussie yen. You know, they've got more structural weakness, right, than the CAD. Kiwi yen in particular has got a lot of sellers lined up with it. So the Kiwi yen makes a little bit more sense. Let's bring that up. But I mean, in what scenario? Why like when I trade crosses, right? I never want to pick a pair which you're going against the major, right? The major so aggressively. So if you like shorting Kiwi yen, I can find you nearly any other pair to sell the Kiwi against, and it'll make more sense. Like even the short New Zealand dollar CAD trades that we're doing last week, and the short Aussie CAD trades that we're doing last week. They've come through with that latest rally. Okay, so the CAD trade, you can see the general outperformance here. So CAD falling means that it's, you know, the strongest of the commodity three at the moment. Yeah, so I'd be hesitant here. I'd be hesitant here in you know, sort of A, selling the CAD, B, buying the yen. But yeah, no, I mean, no, I'm not. Jay's a technical guy, and yeah, definitely technically right. It's probably got some side. So I'm just, my feel for dollar yen at the moment tells me it's going to 105. We'll see. So a fair few of these trades are contingent upon what the dollar yen does and what the euro does. Pound's still doing its own thing, searching for support. Slippery, probably at these levels. Seems like we want to head lower towards that 120, maybe even 118 level in coming weeks. Definitely no reason to be buying just yet. Once we get a reason, the short rally begins, we can hop on board. Right, we can hop on board this, but there's no rewards for going early in this game. Yeah, you might be right, but you easily could be wrong. So yeah, it still seems to be a little bit dangerous for me. The one way that we tried to play it was pound Kiwi. So this has the added advantage of being both of the weakest currencies in the market, but we're looking for these you know, potential short squeeze at some time, if not Kiwi getting sold at the same sort of rate as the pound, so it's not too much downside. But definitely still need to stop here in case the Kiwi does it. So it's a rally thing, it does a lot. So most of these trades are doing okay. You saw I got a little bit of pound yen as well. Don't follow that. That's gambling. That's dangerous trade, guys. That's not something for you guys to follow. Put a little stopping on that. Look, I'm okay to risk on that because I'm not even going to try and justify it to you guys. That's funny. That's a funny position to be in. I can't literally justify it. It's not a trade that I should be doing. And it's a trade that even if it wins, I won't take credit for because it's a straight up gamble, right? It's a 50-50. But the payout on a big pound yen rally is so large that I'm sort of greedy on it. I just want to have some exposure to pound yen in what I expect to be a nice dollar yen rally, just in case the pound starts to rally and there's some random comment out there that gets the pound going. But by no means is there a reason to be in that trade just yet. And if you do follow that trade, just make sure you have a stop on it. Alright, let's have a little look at some of the research out there today, boys. It's relatively quiet. We're sort of running with the US dollar strength because it's the only game that makes a lot of sense right now. And it's making money, so don't have to be worried about that too much. You can sleep sort of at the moment with these sort of trades. Some focus on yuan today. So there's a week away on holidays last week for China. So the Golden Week holidays come back. There's a bit of movement as they play catch up. In this particular case, there's been a lot of US dollar strength, so the dollar yuan has jumped above 6.7, pretty big level for those traders who trade that. Perhaps it's adding to a little bit of the Aussie dollar weakness. But by no means is it a market leading event that's going on right now. But yeah, you definitely notice some pretty strange Aussie weakness today, and it could be a little bit of the reason behind it. You see they're talking about it in relation to the euro. Yeah, but I think it's just reacting to how far the dollar yen moved while they were in the week off. Oh shit. Saudi Arabia doesn't rule out reconsidering US dollar peg. Now if they drop that, that would be a massacre. Oh Jesus. That would be interesting. They've said that they're committed to it. I remember that as early as 3 or 4 months ago. I remember reading that they said they're committed, but we'll have to see what their plan is on that. Randomly, someone asked me about Turkish lira today. I will have a little update for you guys at the same time. I haven't traded it since the coup. Under a lot of pressure though, the lira. Generally, it's going to be hard hit. It doesn't look like we've got our Jim Reed today, so we might have to mix the Jim Reed. FXWW is the chat room that I'm in there. That's where I'm getting these banking reports from. You can get access for around $60, $70 a month. Run by an ex-Forex Live market analyst named Sean Lee. Very good with the market there. Yada yada yada. Market is heavily positioned for high dollar lira. Big move is more likely. Direction of the move is going to depend on the locals. Let's have a little look at the Turkish lira. Wow. They are punching it. Okay. I don't know. It feels a bit late to get on board this one. And I'm definitely not going to be buying lira. So I think I'll stick to just my Mexican peso experiment for my fun, for my emergings. And we'll leave that one alone. So this is the Mexican peso. We're looking for that 1750-ish sort of level. Basically, it will go down if Trump loses the election. That seems more and more likely. So we're talking about the dollar CAD, right? Why it's not substantially lower. The movement to the downside here we saw with the break above 50 seems to be brought back up with the Aussie. Now this is not. You shouldn't view this price action as an opportunity to keep on selling into this trade. This is actually very bullish price action when the market should be going one way, but it keeps on getting brought up, sort of like as if the tide is going with the US dollar, and you're getting this pushing back from outside sources, but the tide's still pushing it higher. In the end, this ends usually with either A, oil falling and this going berserk to the top side, or B, it just grinding higher, continuing. It's unlikely that the status quo is changing here anytime soon, and that the US dollar buying just gives way to dramatic CAD, CAD buying, US dollar selling. It's just not the way it usually happens. You'll need a catalyst to change the market's feeling on the US dollar, and I just don't see there being that catalyst this week. So this is a hard one to sell, but that doesn't mean we can't buy the Canadian dollar against something else, and I suggest the Aussie as a clean way of playing the market right now without exposure to the US dollar, or to buy the CAD yen as a sort of souped up version of the dollar yen rally. Should buy a little bit of this. It's not going to war with Jay, but I just it's okay to have differing opinions. Doesn't mean there's a problem, right? This market is made of buyers and sellers at every level, so it's not like there's a huge. It's not like I'm challenging him to a dance-off. It's just straight up. I think it's going high. I think it's going low. There's and that's always going to be the case in the market. There's no disrespect to his abilities. He's a good analyst. Yeah, we're gonna have to. Maybe the best thing to do right now is to remove the pound charts from your market watch and from your MT4 tabs, just so you don't get tempted. Yeah. You guys know I want to sell Euro pound, don't you? Jesus. Get out of there with that. Jenny, stop tempting magician to lose money, mate. No one's gonna trade gold against you. Are we getting into it, Potter? You called it. That's it. That's the bottom. It's happening. We jump in. I got a little bit of pound gen, man. Just a little sneaky little pound gen. I'm with you. Let's start that rally up. Get the Prime Minister May to come out and say that negotiations are coming along well. I'm really going to spend a couple of days at some point learning the political situation in England. I really want to know the timeline of when we're going to get announcements here or some sort of progress pre-Article 50 being triggered. You know, there should be some substantial progress made on on deals and sort of the direction they want to take the negotiations. Hopefully it's a less aggressive stance than they currently seem to be pursuing. But yeah, it's pretty important stuff here if you're trading the pound. You can't trade the pound without having a pretty good understanding of what's going on with the Brexit, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to respond to headlines knowing which one is important or not. And if you're not responding to the headlines at the moment, you probably shouldn't be trading the pound, right? It's just going to make it 10 times harder than it has to be. It is very surprising there hasn't been a substantial rally in the pound, though. We're like 10 days, 15 days into this sell-off, and there hasn't been a 400, 300 pip rally, like a one-day event. That's very normal in these sorts of markets. That's surprisingly bearish price action here. I suppose there hasn't been a trigger yet, and we're just waiting for the trigger. I'm going to give that a bit of read later. So this is a snapshot of the technicals in the market at the moment. I think the longer the Mexican spends underneath 19, the more follow through we're going to get. Yeah, Aussie Kiwi's just crushing it, Dave. I should have kept on holding that trade, mate. We got out at 105.50-ish. So this is mostly driven by the Kiwi selling here, the aggressive, relentless Kiwi selling, which is a hallmark of how the Kiwi moves. And we should have held on to our shorts after the NFP. This is a bit how the Kiwi moves, and I do have a little bit of pound yen, Aussie Kiwi. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Oh, that's something we bought that Friday when the market was selling off. I remember that. We said, hey, don't you fall. Don't you fall without us. But yeah, I haven't got, obviously I don't have the 2 or 3 lots that I would have had before. But yeah, the 107 is a pretty big sort of resistance. It's held the market before. Really, we want the market to focus on what's going on in one sec, guys. Damn brokers calling me trying to sell me stuff. They don't know what time it is in Australia. It's illegal to call people at this time, Potter. Can you tell your mates in the UK you can't ring your Aussie clients at this time? I'm not even a client of them. Yeah, so the Kiwi selling is more of a overdone positionally. We're getting back down to the 200-day moving average. Still got 100 pips to go on that move, so no reason to be too bullish just yet. And the 200-day moving average is not the one that you see on the MT4 chart. It is at 69.36. Yeah, so Yeah, there's plenty of potential here in a few trades. Sticking the short Kiwis against something. US dollar's okay, but you've missed a fair bit of that boat. The New Zealand dollar CAD trade makes a lot more sense at the moment, and sticking with the long dollar yens and the short euros makes sense to me. This will be interesting to watch in the next few hours. Just keep selling rallies, right? The burden of the proof is on the bulls here. But other than that, there's not too much going on, guys, this week. And the next couple of days as well. Do you have Bank of England Carney speaking on Thursday? That could be interesting. And retail sales on Friday, followed by Yellen speaking. That might be the highlight of this week. Alright, is there any other pairs that you want me to look at, boys? Gold? Gold. Alright, now gold. What are we going to do with you, gold? I still suspect selling rallies is the way to go, right? So we've been selling on that break of 1300. Market soared higher on the non-farms, and we sold into the rally after that. Market then ballied up, and I was like, just not sell here last night. I said, this is a little bit too close to here for us not to take some stops. Ended up holding. Okay, so sometimes the market does pay you off. But look, it hasn't been a big move, only $5. So yeah, I mean now it's a little bit clearer sell than it was up there. Up there it was like, well, where they're going to go here? Back to 1275. Now that we've held here, struggled, and rolling over again, a little bit more bearish. Downside target 1210 is easily achievable, and potentially could happen in the coming days, right? The gold doesn't muck around when it sells off, so yeah, pretty dangerous to be trying to buy. If you're buying, you need to have probably some sort of sentiment change reason against the US dollar, and also some risk aversion. I don't see the reasoning behind any sort of short-term buying here on gold. We'll see how it plays out, but yeah, I'm not interested in picking up any of that. Selling maybe, but yeah, I could be tempted to sell higher. So yeah, you could put down a fair bit of the Aussie weakness to the yuan fix. So the amount of follow through you're going to get on this, especially when Aussie yen buying and Aussie Kiwi buying supporting, remains limited, I believe. It's one of the commodity pairs that I don't mind buying. I want to get price close to 75 though. That seems good risk reward just for the range to continue. Either buying Aussie or selling dollar CAD, depending on how oil's going. But yeah, it's I don't mind buying the Aussie Kiwi, and Aussie yen probably is a better way of doing it though. So it's surprisingly weak, but there is reasons for it to be falling, and you're standing in the way of US dollar strength if you do hop in here. Alright boys, that's enough for today. I'll be back tomorrow, 9 GMT. Wait, you guys have got daylight savings over in London yet? What's going on there? Yeah, so 9 GMT still. There's daylight savings in Cyprus, I think. Alright, boys. We'll talk tomorrow. I'll let you know if anything happens. I'll come into the room, but yeah, don't expect too much to change in the next little bit.